Hi, you're listening to Insight Avenue. If money has ever made you feel confused, behind, or powerless, stay with me. This episode will help you see the game clearly and start moving with intention. Most people grow up believing money is something you chase, fear, or feel guilty about. You work harder, wait longer, and hope that one day things will finally feel stable. But for many, that day never comes. Not because they are lazy or incapable, but because they were never shown how the system actually works. This is not a talk about getting rich fast, and it's not advice built on hype or shortcuts. What you're about to hear is a shift in perspective, a calm, honest look at money as a system, one with patterns, rules, and long-term consequences. When you understand those rules, effort starts to make sense. Decisions become clearer, and progress stops feeling random. So slow down. Put distractions aside. This isn't background noise. It's the beginning of learning how to play with awareness, rather than reacting in the dark. Most people believe they are failing with money because they are not doing enough. They think the problem is effort, discipline, or motivation. So they work longer hours, say yes more often, and push themselves harder, yet nothing really changes. The truth is quieter and more uncomfortable. Many people are not losing because they are weak, but because they are playing without understanding the system. Money is not random. It does not move based on luck or kindness. It responds to structure. When you don't know the structure, every move feels exhausting. You can run all day and still stay in the same place. That is what happens when effort exists without direction. From a young age, most people are taught a single script. Study well. Find a stable job. Save what you can. Be patient. If you follow the rules, life will eventually reward you. This advice sounds safe, but it leaves out something critical. It explains how to survive inside the system, not how the system actually works. Survival and understanding are not the same thing. When people don't understand the rules, they start guessing. They copy what others are doing. They chase trends. They jump between ideas. One month they save aggressively. The next month they panic and spend. One year they feel hopeful. The next year they feel behind again. This emotional up and down is not a personal failure. It is the natural result of moving without a map. Think of it this way. If you were dropped into a game you had never seen before, with no instructions, no examples, and no feedback, how long would you last? You might press buttons, you might move fast, but without knowing what earns points and what causes loss, your energy would be wasted. Money works the same way. Activity alone does not equal progress. This is why some people seem calm, while others feel constantly stressed, even when they earn less. Calm comes from clarity. When you understand how money flows, decisions become simpler. You stop reacting and start choosing. You know why you are doing something, not just what you are doing. Playing blind also creates unfair comparisons. You look at others who appear far ahead and assume they are smarter, luckier, or more connected. What you don't see is that many of them are simply responding to rules you were never shown. They are not moving faster. They are moving more accurately. The first real shift, then, is not to earn more or work harder. It is to pause and admit one thing. I may have been trying my best inside a system I don't fully understand. That admission is not weakness. It is the beginning of control. Once you accept that money follows patterns, you stop blaming yourself and start observing the structure. You begin asking better questions. Why does this decision create stress later? Why does this choice lead to stability? Why does one path compound while another disappears? This is where the game changes. Not because your life transforms overnight, but because you are no longer guessing. You are learning how the board is designed. And once you can see the board, every move you make, small or large, starts to matter in a different way. Most people don't lose the money game because they lack opportunity. They lose because their attention is pointed in the wrong direction. Instead of focusing on their own position, they spend years watching other players. They scroll, observe, comment, compare, and react. Their mind is busy, but nothing is being built. When attention is misused, progress slows down. Every time you focus on someone else's outcome, you quietly step away from your own process. Comparison feels harmless at first. It even feels motivating. But over time, it turns into noise. Noise that distracts you from learning, practicing, and improving. There are two ways to move through life. One is to look outward constantly, at who is ahead, who is behind, who seems lucky, who seems unfairly rewarded. The other is to look inward and forward, at what you can learn, what you can improve, and what you can build quietly. These two paths use the same 24 hours, but they lead to completely different futures. Here is a simple moment. Two friends finish work at the same time every evening. One opens his phone and scrolls. He watches people talk about success, money, and freedom. He feels inspired for a moment, then tired. The other goes home, opens his laptop, and works on a small skill he barely understands yet. No one likes his posts. No one notices his effort. 5 years later, one still knows everyone's story. The other has his own. Nothing dramatic happened in that moment. No big decision. No sudden breakthrough. Just a quiet difference in how attention was used. That is how building really begins, without applause. Many people confuse awareness with progress. They believe that knowing about success is the same as moving toward it, but information without action becomes entertainment. And entertainment feels productive while keeping you exactly where you are. Watching also creates emotional traps. When you see others succeed, it is easy to explain it away. You tell yourself they were lucky, connected, or privileged. These explanations protect your ego, but they damage your growth. They allow you to stay comfortable instead of curious. Builders think differently. They don't ask, why them? They ask, what can I learn from this? They turn observation into education, not judgment. And then they close the app, return to their work, and apply one small lesson. Everyone feels jealousy sometimes. That is human. The problem is not the feeling, it is the habit. When jealousy becomes routine, it poisons focus. It pulls energy away from the only place it can create change. Your own skill, your own system, your own effort. Building is often boring at the beginning. There are no results to show, no proof that it will work. That is why most people never stay long enough. Watching feels easier. It feels social. It feels safe. But safety does not compound. The moment you stop counting other people's progress, your time comes back to you. Your energy becomes usable again. And slowly, almost quietly, you move from being a spectator to being a participant. In this game, no one can build for you, and no one can win on your behalf. The question is not who you are watching, but what you are building when no one is watching you. Many people believe money is a reward for effort. The harder you work, the more you deserve. This idea sounds fair, but it doesn't match reality. If effort alone created wealth, the most exhausted people would be the richest. But that is rarely the case. Money does not respond to sweat. It responds to usefulness. Money flows toward people who solve problems, not theoretical problems. Real ones. Problems that waste time, cause frustration, create pain, or block progress for others. When you remove friction from someone's life, value is created, and money follows value. Look closely at how wealth appears around you. It is never random. Behind every successful business, service, or professional skill is a problem that was understood deeply and handled better than before. Transportation used to be inconvenient. Access to places to stay was expensive. Buying products used to take time and effort. Someone noticed these difficulties and decided to fix them. The solution came first, the money came later. This principle applies at every level. You do not need to build something massive to play this part of the game. You only need to be useful to someone. When you help a person communicate better, design better, organize better, move better, learn faster, or decide more clearly, you are solving a problem. That solution has value, even if it starts small. Most people misunderstand this because they were taught to focus on tasks, not outcomes. They ask, "What job should I get?" instead of, "What problem can I solve?" Tasks can disappear. Problems rarely do. When you attach your identity to a task, you become replaceable. When you attach your growth to solving problems, you become necessary. Another mistake people make is avoiding difficulty. They see hard problems and turn away, assuming someone smarter will handle them. But difficulty is not a warning sign. It is often an invitation. Simple problems attract many people. Complex or uncomfortable problems attract fewer. That is why they are valuable. When you move toward problems others avoid, you gain leverage. You learn faster. You become rare. Over time, people seek you out not because you asked for attention, but because you are useful. This is how stability is built, not through chasing income, but through earning trust and relevance. There is also a scale effect. Solving a small problem for a few people creates limited income. Solving a painful or expensive problem for many people creates freedom. This is not about greed, it is about impact. The more people you help, and the deeper the problem you address, the more value you create in the system. Most people wait to feel ready before stepping into this role. They want permission, confidence, or certainty. Builders do the opposite. They start learning while solving. They improve while helping. They adjust while moving. Once you understand where money actually comes from, your focus changes. You stop asking how to earn more. You start asking how to be more useful. And that question, asked consistently, has a way of answering itself. Money does not chase effort. It responds to solutions. When you become someone who looks at the world and thinks, "I can make this easier," you are no longer waiting for money to arrive. You are creating the reason it comes. Many people believe money is the destination. They imagine that once they earn enough, life will finally feel calm, safe, and complete. So they chase income aggressively, measure themselves by numbers, and tie their self-worth to financial results. At first, this feels motivating, but over time, it quietly turns into a trap. When money becomes the only goal, fear enters the picture. Fear of losing it. Fear of not having enough. Fear that someone else is moving faster. Instead of creating freedom, money becomes a source of pressure. Every decision feels urgent. Every mistake feels dangerous. And peace becomes something that always exists in the future, never in the present. This is why many people who increase their income still feel anxious. Their lifestyle improves, but their mind doesn't. They earn more, but they also worry more. The problem is not the money itself. The problem is building your entire identity around it. People who build wealth in a healthier way rarely start with money as their main focus. They start with mastery. They choose a skill, a craft, or a service, and commit to becoming excellent at it. Their attention stays on learning, improving, and creating value. Money appears as a result, not as a constant obsession. Chasing money also leads to short-term thinking. When income is the only target, people jump from one opportunity to another. They abandon projects too early. They look for shortcuts. They sacrifice depth for speed. This creates motion, but not momentum. Nothing compounds because nothing is allowed to grow. There is also an emotional cost. When money is your main purpose, success never feels complete. There is always another level to reach, another comparison to make. Satisfaction becomes fragile. You feel good only when numbers go up, and empty when they don't. That emotional dependency makes life unstable, even when finances improve. Purpose works differently. When your focus is on contribution, progress feels meaningful even before money arrives. When you care about the work itself, about solving a problem well or serving people properly, you build patience naturally. You are willing to stay longer, refine more, and endure uncertainty. That patience is what most people lack. Money responds well to patience. It rewards those who think in years instead of weeks. When you build for meaning, you stop rushing. You stop panicking. You make better decisions because you are not desperate for immediate reward. This does not mean money is unimportant. It is a powerful tool. But tools need direction. Without purpose, money amplifies anxiety. With purpose, it amplifies impact. The shift is subtle but powerful. Instead of asking, "How can I make more money right now?" you ask, "What am I building that will still matter in 5 years?" That question changes how you work, how you learn, and how you choose. When money stops being the finish line, it becomes fuel. And fuel works best when it is driving something meaningful forward, not when it is the only thing you are running toward. Many people quietly believe they are not meant to succeed with money because they are not smart enough. They look at their education, their grades, or their background and decide the game is already lost. This belief feels logical, but it is misleading. In reality, intelligence is rarely the deciding factor. Behavior is. Money does not reward the highest IQ. It responds to movement. People who make progress are not always the most knowledgeable. They are the ones who act, adjust, and continue. While others wait to feel prepared, they step forward with incomplete information and learn through experience. Overthinking is one of the most expensive habits a person can have. It creates the illusion of safety. Planning feels productive, but without execution, it leads nowhere. Many people stay stuck in research mode for years, convincing themselves that they are being responsible, when in truth, they are avoiding discomfort. Action creates clarity. When you try something small, the results, good or bad, teach you faster than theory ever could. You learn what works, what doesn't, and what needs improvement. This feedback loop is how real skill is formed, not through perfect preparation, but through repeated exposure to reality. There is a difference between being careless and being adaptive. Adaptive people accept that mistakes are part of progress. They expect them. They design their approach to learn quickly and recover. This mindset allows them to move while others hesitate. Think about how learning works in everyday life. No one becomes good at speaking, driving, or cooking by studying forever. At some point, you step in, make errors, feel awkward, and slowly improve. Money operates under the same rule. Understanding grows through participation. People who rely only on intelligence often struggle because they try to predict everything in advance. When something goes wrong, they feel discouraged. People who rely on action expect adjustment. They see problems as information, not as personal failure. Consistency matters more than brilliance. Small actions, repeated over time, build momentum. Each attempt adds a layer of understanding. Over months and years, these layers turn into experience. Experience creates confidence. Confidence creates better decisions. This is why average people with persistence often outperform talented people who hesitate. Talent without action fades. Action without perfection compounds. The key is to start before you feel ready. Not recklessly, but deliberately. Begin with something manageable. Test one idea. Offer one service. Build one small system. Learn from the response. Improve the next version. You don't need permission to begin. You don't need certainty. You don't need to feel smart. You need to move. In the money game, the winners are not those who think the most. They are those who stay engaged long enough to figure things out. Intelligence can help, but action is what keeps you in the game, and only those who keep playing ever learn how to win. Every financial decision you make is influenced by something deeper than logic or knowledge. It is guided by your beliefs, many of which were formed long before you had a choice. These beliefs operate quietly in the background, shaping what you pursue, what you avoid, and what feels possible or impossible to you. Most people never question where their ideas about money came from. They inherit them. A sentence heard in childhood, a warning repeated by adults, a lesson taught with good intentions but limited understanding. Over time, these messages turn into internal rules, and once they become rules, your behavior follows them automatically. If someone believes money is dangerous, they will hesitate when opportunities appear. If they believe money is only for certain types of people, they will subconsciously limit themselves. If they believe earning more means becoming selfish, they will pull back just as progress begins. These reactions are not laziness or lack of ability. They are protection mechanisms based on outdated programming. This is why two people with the same skills and opportunities can end up in very different places. One moves forward easily. The other feels blocked, confused, or guilty. The difference is not effort. It is the internal equation running in their mind. Your mind works like a calculator. It always produces results that match the formula you give it. If the formula is flawed, the answer will be 2, no matter how hard you try. Working harder with the wrong beliefs only reinforces frustration. Rewriting your money. Programming begins with awareness. You start by noticing the thoughts that appear when money is involved. Do you feel tension when charging for your work? Do you feel discomfort when earning more than expected? Do you delay decisions that could improve your situation? These reactions are signals, not flaws. Once you identify a belief, question it. Ask where it came from. Ask whether it is objectively true or simply familiar. Many beliefs were never tested. They were accepted because they were repeated often. Replacing a belief does not require blind positivity. It requires realism. Money is not a moral test. It is a tool. It magnifies what already exists. In the hands of someone responsible, it creates stability and opportunity. In the hands of someone careless, it creates chaos. The tool is neutral. The user matters. When beliefs shift, behavior follows naturally. You stop self-sabotaging. You stop avoiding growth. You begin to take actions that previously felt uncomfortable. Over time, these actions create new evidence, and that evidence reinforces the new belief. This process is gradual. You do not reprogram years of conditioning in a day, but every time you choose a thought that supports growth instead of fear, you weaken the old pattern. Every aligned action becomes proof that change is possible. Financial growth is not only about learning strategies, it is about removing internal resistance. When your beliefs support your goals, progress feels lighter. You stop fighting yourself. In the money game, strategy matters, skills matter, systems matter, but none of them work consistently if your inner programming is working against you. Change the formula, and the results will change with it. For a long time, having one stable income was considered responsible. One job, one salary, one path. That model worked in a slower, more predictable world. But the environment has changed. Markets shift quickly. Industries evolve. Companies restructure. Skills become outdated. Stability is no longer guaranteed by loyalty alone. Relying on a single source of income today is not a moral failure, but it is a fragile position. When all your security comes from one place, any disruption becomes a crisis. A layoff, a health issue, or an economic shift can undo years of effort in a short time. This is not pessimism. It is realism. True financial stability comes from flexibility, from having more than one way to create value. Multiple income streams are not about working endlessly or chasing every opportunity. They are about designing resilience over time. Most people misunderstand how this is built. They imagine juggling many jobs at once and burning out. In reality, stability is created sequentially, not simultaneously. You begin with one reliable source. Then you use part of your time, energy, or income to build a second. Once the second becomes consistent, it reduces pressure on the first. This pattern repeats. The foundation of additional income is usually a skill, something you can offer outside your primary role. Writing, teaching, designing, consulting, organizing, or guiding others. These skills create options. They allow you to participate in different parts of the economy instead of depending on one gatekeeper. Over time, these efforts can evolve into systems that produce results even when you are not fully present. A digital product, a small service with clear processes, an investment that compounds quietly. Each system adds a layer of security. This approach changes how you experience work. You are no longer trapped by fear of losing one paycheck. You make decisions with more confidence. You can say no when something no longer fits. That emotional freedom is often more valuable than the income itself. People who build multiple streams think differently about money. They use one income to create the next. They reinvest instead of consuming everything immediately. They allow progress to compound slowly, rather than expecting instant results. It is important to be patient here. Most secondary income sources start small. They may feel insignificant at first, but consistency matters more than size. A small stream that grows steadily is more powerful than a large one that disappears. This is not about escaping responsibility. It is about designing a life that can adapt. When one path slows down, another continues. When one door closes, another remains open. In an unpredictable world, resilience is a form of intelligence. By building more than one way to create value, you are not spreading yourself thin. You are strengthening your foundation. Stability today is not about standing still. It is about being able to move without falling. And that ability comes from having options, quietly built, carefully maintained, and allowed to grow over time. Most people don't lose because they fail once. They lose because they stop after failing. In the money game, losses are not the exception. They are part of the process. What separates those who move forward from those who stay stuck is not talent, timing, or luck. It is the decision to stay in the game long enough to learn. Failure feels personal. When something doesn't work, people don't just question the strategy. They question themselves. They interpret a bad result as proof that they are not capable, not suited, or not meant for this path. So they retreat. They return to what feels safe. And slowly, their world becomes smaller. Here is a quiet moment many people recognize. Someone starts a small project. They invest time, hope, and energy. It doesn't work. The result is disappointing, almost embarrassing. They close the laptop and don't touch it again for months. Nothing dramatic ends that day, but something important stops moving. That pause, unnoticed by others, is where many futures quietly disappear. The truth is, losing is not a signal to exit. It is feedback. It shows you what doesn't work, what needs adjustment, and where understanding is still shallow. Every experienced player carries losses behind them, not as scars, but as data. Think about how learning works in real life. No one masters a skill without mistakes. Children fall repeatedly before they walk. They don't label the fall as failure. They treat it as part of the process. Adults forget this pattern and replace it with shame. In the long game, emotional resilience matters more than short-term wins. People who succeed over time are not fearless. They feel doubt, frustration, and disappointment like everyone else. The difference is that they don't let those emotions decide their future. Staying in the game does not mean repeating the same mistakes. It means adjusting your strategy without abandoning the path. It means asking better questions instead of quitting. What did this teach me? What can I improve? What should I try differently next time? Time rewards consistency. Small improvements, applied repeatedly, create results that sudden effort never can. Progress often looks invisible until it suddenly isn't. This is why patience feels difficult. It asks you to trust a process before it produces visible proof. Playing the long game also changes how you view setbacks. You stop seeing them as judgment and start seeing them as tuition. The cost of learning something valuable. When framed this way, losses lose their power to stop you. The most dangerous moment is not when things go wrong. It is when discouragement convinces you that stopping is reasonable. Because once you exit, learning ends. Growth ends. Momentum ends. The money game is not won by avoiding loss. It is won by staying engaged through it, by learning faster each round, by refining your approach, by continuing when results are delayed. In the end, the winners are rarely the ones who never failed. They are the ones who failed, adjusted, and kept going, long enough for experience to turn into wisdom and effort to turn into stability. If there is one thing to remember from this series, it is this: money was never meant to be a mystery or a source of fear. It is a system, one that responds to understanding, patience, and consistent action. Once you stop reacting blindly and start seeing the structure beneath your choices, everything begins to feel more manageable. You don't need to win overnight. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to stay engaged long enough to learn, adjust, and grow. Small decisions, made with awareness, quietly change the direction of your life. This game rewards those who build skills, create value, manage their time wisely, and keep going even when results are slow. It also rewards balance, using money not just to build security, but to create a life that feels meaningful. So, as you step away from this episode, don't rush to do everything at once. Choose one idea, apply it calmly, let it compound, and remember, you are not behind. You are simply learning the rules now, and that changes everything.